Good evening and welcome to tonight's slightly adjusted episode of Learn Live UAE. Thank you very much for tuning in. Everybody, don't forget that you can always subscribe. Mark and I always forget if it is the left or the right of your screen, but please do hit subscribe so you can watch back all of our episodes. Tonight's episode is slightly different to our proposed agenda. We've called it Workload Winners, but we'll get into what we really mean by this in the next couple of minutes. We're also going to give you a few tasters in respect to our scheduled show for next week. But without further ado, this week's guest is an all-round edu hero, legend, and well-known enthusiast of all things technology, pedagogy, leadership, and learning. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show this evening, on the other side of the fence for once, my co-host, Mr. Mark Anderson.
Evening. Hi. Thank you for. It's very strange, Ollie, actually being here because I'm in as a guest would be as well. So all the controls and things where I could remove people and bring them in and do all that, and I can't actually do this evening. So I am really 100% on the other side of the table, and it's a bit weird actually. It's completely different, and it does remind me actually how. Fantastic our many guests that we've had, how fantastic they've been in actually coming in and doing it, because actually I think you and I probably have the easier job. I know we do a lot of work behind the scenes in terms of preparing people and coming up with questions and topics and all those bits and bobs, but the actual delivery bit this side, it's a bit scary.
Yeah, I'll second that. I was fortunate enough to record a podcast with the Learning Dust guys a couple of weeks back, and
yeah,
I felt so off guard by being the other side of the fence and not having the control, like you've just talked about, but also being the one asking questions. It is 100% much easier to fire questions at people and listen and learn. It is so much easier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So listen, I'm going to take the mantle of the host again for a second, if that's all right, Ollie. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us this evening. We plan to do a show this evening around use of Google tools as part of our EdTech mini-series, but for a whole host of different reasons, diaries and all these different things, but most importantly, workload. It was very difficult for both Ollie, myself, and our guests to better bring everything together to provide you with a fantastic show this evening. And so what we're doing is we are, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk as well. So both Ollie and I always share the importance of turning up and representing and doing the things that we do regularly and doing what we say we're going to do. So I will in a few moments show a little taste, something to whet your appetite, as it were, for the Google tips and hints and all that sort of stuff show that we'll be doing next Monday. So I'll do a little demo in a moment to wet your whistle for those sort of things. And what I thought, what better way to do that than to show something which can actually save people who work in Google schools, something that can really save you an awful lot of time and reduce your workload. So that's what I'm going to show in just a few moments. But yeah, the premise of tonight's show is just really just to do what we say we're going to do, turn up, represent, say hello, and have a show, which I think is really important that we continue to do as we say we're going to do. But in recognition of workload and things that are happening with a whole bunch of things at the moment, we are not going to be doing the show that we had as scheduled this evening. But I think that's okay, Ollie, and I think it's okay as well to say, Ollie works full time. I work full time as well. And this is something that we do as a passion project to help support schools and teachers across the UAE and associated regions in the MENA. Yeah, when the going gets tough, as my old colleague Jim Smith used to say to me, it's important, like I say, to make sure we turn up and share and represent. And we thought we'd use this opportunity this evening to not only whet your appetite for the session next week, focusing on Google. We're very pleased to be welcoming Ben Rothwell back to the show next week from Victory Heights. They're a Google school, so he'll be joining us. I'll be presenting next week and sharing around Google things. And don't worry, I've got a few Google badges, Google Certified Innovator, Mentor, all these different things. So, and I do work with lots of schools that use Google as their infrastructure within schools as well. So I've got plenty of hints, tips, top tips, all these sort of things to share with you on next week's show. But we have got a mini announcement this evening, which I'm really excited to sort of talk with you about this evening. But rather than me being the person who just rabbits on at a million miles an hour, Ollie, did you want to do that little announcement just to whet people's appetite for that thing we're going to be doing at the, on the 7th of December?
Certainly, yeah. So mindful of obviously workload and well-being, Mark and I have started planning the we have planned the build up to the next holidays, and it's not too far away actually. When you sort of break up the next couple of weeks, suddenly it will be National Day in the region. Then we have one more week left, the last week of term, and then it will be the Christmas holiday. So on that special last week of term, we're looking and we'll be hosting a special episode of Learn Live UAE. They'll be focused on fun. Not to say that we don't have fun in every episode, but we will be hosting a quiz night. We are hoping to get some raffle prizes and just have a big ball of fun for 1 hour with all of our regular viewers and any potential viewers that are yet to view within your schools.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. One of the things we've started to pull together as well is not only guests who've been on the show previously to write some of the questions. So we've got those sort of questions that have come through from previous guests, but we're also hoping to bring some of those people in on the show live during the quiz for a bit of fun and games during that as well. So really looking forward to that. So put a date in your diary. I believe, without referring to my calendar, I believe that's the 7th of December. Is that right, Ollie?
I think you are correct there, sir. That's a Monday. I'll just double check now.
Yeah.
Yep, that is correct.
Brilliant. So keep that day free in your diary. And it will be the usual time for Learn Live UAE. So keep that sort of put to one side. And as you'll have noticed and seen with the episode, the conference that we had, we don't hold back on pulling the punches when it comes to getting some tip-top prizes as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. And if you're somebody who is an education solutions provider in the region looking to get promotions for your products or services, please do again get in touch with myself or Ollie. I'm at ICT Evangelist on Twitter, and Ollie is at olewis_coaching. Please do drop us a line if you'd like to sponsor a prize in the quiz, and we would be very delighted to hear from you. So Ollie, flipping back to me not being the host for a second, or co-host for a second, can I share my screen? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course you can.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen right now, and I'm just going to bring up this document here. Now, you might recognize this document, Ollie. Do you recognize this document that I'm sharing?
Just going to add you to the mix now. Do you recognize that document? Yes.
So that's an old article that you wrote, and I had a little look through it and what have you. As teachers, something we do very often is we receive work from our learners and we need to give feedback. Now, if we're working digitally, and goodness knows we need to do an awful lot of that at the moment with the situation we're in with learners here, there, and everywhere. Leaving feedback on a document such as this is normally done through the use of the commenting tool, and we can do that inside Google Docs. We can do that inside Google Sheets, Google Slides, and it's a great facility being able to comment on things and leave that formative feedback or make a few pointers for improvements and things. But it's not the quickest thing in the world to sort of spend a load of time typing. Plus, it isn't that accessible when you are thinking about leaving feedback. And there's a whole lot of text there. Not only is it taking you a fair bit of time as a teacher to do that, it then incumbent upon the learner to be able to access that as well. And as I think it's Dylan William who says, feedback should be more work for the donor than the recipient than the donor. So what I'm going to share with you today is a tool that I've been using for a little while now, which enables you, and this is one of the things which is great about the Microsoft ecosystem, because you can leave audio feedback in OneNote, for example, like so easily. It's really easy to do that, and it's something which is currently missing from the Google offer until there is a handy little plugin that you can get, a little Google add-on, not from Google, from another company, But it's called Mote, M-O-T-E. And I'll share more about this and how you get it set up and things during my demo next week. But I want to show you how quick and easy it is to leave some feedback. So I'm just going to jump into the page again for a second. And I think this word awesome here is a bit redundant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the word awesome. And I'm going to go over to here where you've got the add a comment section. And I've got Mote already installed and working with inside my Google setup. So all I've got to do to add an audio comment is to go to add a comment. And we'll see that I've got this extra little icon on the right-hand side. Now, it's very, very small at the moment, but it does say click to record or hold for Motebook. And again, I'll talk more about Motebook and all those different things in more detail in next week's session. But to leave some audio feedback, and another great feature of this as well, Ollie, is it's also got transcription built into it as well. So not only can you have the audio there to listen back to, it will also transcribe what you've said and put that into the comments as well. So if I just go and press here now for a second. Yeah, so I've got 90 seconds now to leave some audio feedback. And whilst I think your writing is really good here, Ollie, that word awesome is actually a bit frivolous and actually ancillary to the needs of this particular document. So please revise your thoughts around its inclusion. And thanks for your time today, blah, blah, blah. When I'm finished, I just hit the word done. It thinks, it then gives you a little URL where you can find that. But the great thing is, Ollie, if I go hit the word comment here at the bottom, it then actually puts it in as an embedded little audio note so that anyone who then comes onto here and views that, they can just click on that and listen to that. Or if they missed a bit or want to listen to it back again, they can just go in here and knock it back 5 seconds. And it doesn't just work inside Google Docs. If I just come back into StreamYard a second now and go share my screen again and bring up my other tab that I've got open, and I've got a presentation loaded up here, you might recognize this slide, Ollie. Let's say this was the design and I wanted to comment on it a little bit. Let's say it's like that. Okay, I want to give some feedback on this particular slide. I can go on to here and I can go to my add a comment. And you see the little Mote icons there on the right-hand side again. Great piece of work here, Ollie. I really like the spacing, the use of white space in between. It's really clear. I love the background, all the rest of it. However, you've made one faux pas, one mistake, I'm afraid, Ollie. You spelt season wrong. So can you please fix that? Thank you very much. I hit done again. It's thinking. I hit comment. And now, again, just like before, that audio comment is there for your learners to access directly on the slide. And I love it. It's so quick, it's so simple, it's so easy, it's effective. You've got 90 seconds to leave some detailed feedback. And I'll tell you what, I'm sure I can say a lot more in 90 seconds than I can type in 90 seconds. And I'm about 90 to 100 words per minute on my touch typing. So, you know, I think that's a fantastic tool. It works directly within Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, and Google Classroom. So you've got, you know, a great tool there. Please do explore it. And it's called Mote, M-O-T-E. And just one of the things that I'll be sharing in the Google show, in the top tips for schools that use Google tools. That was almost sort of rhyming there as well. Sarah Lambert would have loved that. Yeah. That's one of the things I'll be sharing on next week's show. So please do tune in next Monday when myself and Ben Rothwell will be sharing our top tips for teachers in Google Schools. And I hope you found that tip useful.
That's amazingly useful. That, you know, I'm a massive advocate for little tools like that, Mark, that save you time with your marking, but actually you can provide far richer feedback, can't you, by 30 seconds of audio than however long that would take you to type it, even at 100 words per minute. That's amazing. I think one of the hallmarks as well of a little tool like that is that, you know, I was going to say infiltrates that ecosystem, but it works across lots of different tools within the Google ecosystem. I think that's a brilliant top tip.
No, thank you. It reminds me in a lot of ways, actually, of a tool that you and I used to love a few years ago that sort of went down the pan pretty quickly, which is that vocal recall. Yeah, which was great. Now, quicker feedback is available now. But again, anything you can use that just sits nicely inside your ecosystem, you know, even if it's an Apple thing, you know, just going into Keynote and just recording a little bit of audio feedback directly onto your slide in Keynote. You can do similar things in PowerPoint, you know, those sort of things. But yeah, I think it's really impactful, really helpful, cuts out a lot of steps it makes it more effective. It's more accessible for your learners. And actually, if we do go back into a time when students aren't in school, aren't able to get that feedback orally or however from their teacher, actually, it was a long time under lockdown before, when students weren't in school, and we spent a lot of time, quite rightly, talking about mindfulness and well-being and staying connected and all those things with our learners. But again, using your voice, them hearing you going, well done, or giving them some praise, or even a mixture of the two with the sort of formative feedback. I think that's all the better as well, just for them to actually better hear your voice, because as we know, to speak about research, from the EAF, from John Hattie, from blah 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 blah, relationships are absolutely key to learning. And so having that connection where they can hear your voice again, remembering, oh crikey, yeah, Mr. Lewis, maybe not that for you, Mr. Lewis, maybe that only happens with me, Ollie, really, but I'm joking, obviously. But yeah, no, and anything you can do to sort of sustain those connections with your learners is all for the better, I think. I can see there'll be a comment as well.
We have, yeah, and actually, he's always right on time. Al's comment is hugely important here, because the one part of the triangle that we sort of missed there is parents, and audio notes are massively useful, not just for EAL parents, but certainly in this neck of the woods, ESL, ELL parents. So I think it's a vastly useful tool.
Yeah, so I look forward to sharing more about that in a bit more detail on next week's show. But anything like that that can sort of cut a few corners and make teachers' lives a bit easier and more appropriate and accessible feedback for our learners, for me, is always going to be a win.
I can't wait for more top tips.
Well, hopefully it's not one. Ben Rothwell and I haven't actually had a chat about this yet, so hopefully Moat isn't something that he's looking to share as part of his top tips next week. We'll have to align ourselves so we don't end up crossing over. That would not be a good look. And hopefully I haven't stolen any thunder in his preparations by sharing that tonight. So we'll be back next Monday, usual time, 8 p.m. Gulf Standard Time, 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, if you're joining us from the United Kingdom. But for now, I think, Ollie, that's about us done for our sort of whistle-stop, top-up, tip-top join for this evening. And we look forward to catching you on our episode next week. Thank you very much for joining us.